Jeffrey Epstein, didn't he?
Yeah, I did. We flew Bill Clinton and a lot of different that was a humanitarian trip to Africa.
We have new photos like this one coming out of Chris Tucker in the new Epstein files that were released to the public. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit shocked to see that they didn't include this photo that has been circulated of Chris Tucker with one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims.
The Chris Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island. Chris Tucker, not smoking.
And once again, Katt Williams was right. When Katt warned Chris Tucker during that Club Shay Shay interview 2 years ago and tied his name to Epstein, a lot of folks called him a hater. Some even said Katt was bitter and jealous that he didn't make it big in Hollywood like Chris. Well now, new docs have started coming out about Chris Tucker's connection to Epstein, including photos allegedly showing him with one of Epstein's victims. But that's not even the full story. A lawsuit just surfaced among the Epstein documents, filed by a survivor from South Africa, who described meeting Epstein, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Chris Tucker at what was presented as a modeling casting in Cape Town. She claims Epstein used the event as a way to recruit her with promises of modeling opportunities, which she says led to horrific experiences later on. Now, a lot of people who grew up watching Chris Tucker's movies are struggling to wrap their heads around this, but Katt Williams already made his point. The Chris Tucker who traveled on Epstein's plane is not the same person people remember as Smokey from Friday. Basically, Katt's whole theory is that Chris is just one of many actors and comedians who were pulled into Hollywood's dark side and got compromised. And now even more details are coming out about Chris's strange connection to Epstein, so let's break it down.
Michael Jackson called him Christmas. You ever met a man that gave you a little nickname like that? No. Me neither.
Chris Tucker has been spotted in the new Epstein photo dump, which includes photos from Epstein's 2002 trip to Africa with Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Chris. One photo that was released as part of the latest file dump shows Clinton posing with a redacted woman on what looks like Epstein's private plane. And then there's Chris, photographed at dinner with Clinton and posing with Ghislaine Maxwell at a Learjet airport tarmac. Now, as most people know, both Kevin Spacey and Bill Clinton have faced long-standing allegations. Back in 2017, actor Anthony Rapp made public accusations against Spacey, and he claimed the alleged incident happened when Rapp was 14. And then, after Rapp filed a lawsuit, more men came forward, saying they had experienced similar incidents with Spacey. And by the way, all of this is already part of the public record, and it's why those names keep coming up whenever these documents resurface. In total, 15 people have accused Kevin Spacey, but despite serious allegations, the alleged victims have seen mixed legal outcomes. Spacey was acquitted in a 2023 UK criminal trial on charges from 4 men and found not liable in Anthony Rapp's 2022 US civil suit. And then some cases, like a Massachusetts charge, were dropped. But here's the most chilling part. 2 accusers passed away in 2019 under mysterious circumstances. And then in 2020, a 3rd accuser also passed away. According to the official story, he took his own life. As for Bill Clinton, he's also faced public accusations from multiple women over the years. On top of that, both he and his wife have been at the center of different conspiracy theories, including ones tied to a situation that allegedly unfolded in the aftermath of the 2010 Haiti earthquake.
Any comment?
No comment.
Not right now.
In November of 2009, a woman named Laura Silsby founded a nonprofit, the New Life Children's Refuge, which described its mission as attempting to rescue orphaned and abandoned children in Haiti and Dominican Republic. 2 months later, on January 29, 2010, Silsby was arrested for attempting to traffic 33 orphaned children out of Haiti without documentation. Would later learn through WikiLeaks that Hillary Clinton was sent email updates from Uma Abedin and other associates regarding Silsby's incarceration and developing legal case. A week after Silsby was apprehended the second time, on February 7th, 2010, former President Bill Clinton appointed Silsby a lawyer by the name of Jorge Puello. Puello was successful in getting Silsby's charges reduced to 6 months.
So this is just to give you a clearer picture of who Chris Tucker was on that plane with. Epstein, Spacey, Clinton. Chris just doesn't really seem like the type to be on a trip like that. So the question is, why was he there? Did he even know who Epstein was at the time? Well, Chris actually addressed this in a 2021 interview. He admitted he did travel on Epstein's private plane with Clinton and Spacey, saying it was a humanitarian trip to Africa. But he also insisted that he had no idea who Epstein was or anything about his alleged criminal activities at the time.
Jeffrey Epstein, didn't he?
Yeah, I did. You know, we flew Bill Clinton and a lot of different. Well, that was a humanitarian trip to Africa, and
Yeah.
I met him on that trip because it was his plane. I didn't know who plane we was getting on, but it was a whole bunch of dignitary people. We was with a delegation, and yeah, I met him, and you know, you don't know people what they do in their private lives, so.
And then when they asked Chris if he had ever flown to Epstein's private island in the Caribbean, he quickly denied it and laughed off the question.
But tell me this, Chris. He was on this private plane, and you could tell that it was a private plane because they called it, was it Lolita Express?
Oh yeah, it was a private plane. Yes. Oh yes.
But wait a minute. You didn't never go to that island, did you?
No. I don't know where that thing at.
However, even back then, a lot of people felt something seemed off. How does Chris Tucker end up on a private jet with Epstein and Bill Clinton? What connection does he really have with them? And the fact that he laughed when asked about Epstein's private island raised eyebrows because, by that point, Epstein had already been convicted. So why would Chris think it was okay to laugh at a question like that? Now, according to page 6, that so-called humanitarian trip happened in September 2002, and Chris, Epstein, Clinton, and Spacey spent a week touring AIDS project sites in South Africa as part of a Clinton Foundation initiative. By the way, another person on that plane was Shantae Davies, a flight attendant who was also one of the victims. Later, Davies spoke to The Sun about flying to Africa with Chris Tucker, and The Sun obtained photos from the trip, including images of Clinton with Shantae and pictures of Chris, all taken while they were there. Shantae told The Sun at the time, "It's clear that Epstein was using this private jet and his wealth to get close to rich and powerful people. Looking back at these images now, it raises a lot of questions about why Bill Clinton was using the plane, and what perhaps Jeffrey may have been trying to accomplish by having him around. But that's not all. A photo recently resurfaced showing Chris Tucker with Epstein's former housekeeper, Jojo Font. And then here is Jojo posing with Clinton and Epstein's ex-housekeeper. So were these photos taken during that same trip? Or did Chris Tucker visit Epstein's mansion before or after? How long did their connection actually last? Well, no one has asked Chris those questions, and since that 2021 interview, he stayed completely silent about Epstein. But now, with this latest file dump, more receipts are coming to light, including testimony from another alleged Epstein survivor, Juliette Bryant, a former model from South Africa. In her 2022 lawsuit, Juliette described meeting Epstein, Clinton, Spacey, and Chris Tucker at a 2002 modeling casting in Cape Town. She claims that Epstein, along with French modeling scout Jean-Luc Brunel, used the event to recruit her under the pretense of modeling opportunities. But according to her, it quickly turned into a nightmare. But here's the saddest part. Juliette said she believes a full list of island clients and complete transparency about what happened to all those girls will likely never be made public. Because if everything came out, it would be the end of society as we know it.
I knew they'd never release this. I mean, that's why I did an interview recently with an amazing guy, and he said they're doing their due diligence, they're going to be releasing the list. And I just started laughing, like, I just know they're not going to. Because if they release the list, that's the end of the government. And with the end of the government will mean the end of religion. It'll mean the end of society as it is, which will be a good thing for the people, but a bad thing for them. Because people have been kept as slaves. You get rich slaves, you get poor slaves. You know, all of us are slaves in ways. You know, a lot of people, they own the houses, the bank owns their houses, the banks own their cars. We can't trust the banks, we can't trust the system. I mean, we learned that long ago in South Africa. You know, our electricity went off, and you know, we learned not to trust our government a long time ago. But what you can trust is people, I promise you that much. They're segregating people. It's like, are you a Democrat, are you a Republican? You know, in Africa we've had the same thing. It's like a color thing here. And it's like, they try to segregate us through these sort of class systems and color crap, and we don't care about that. People love each other. You know, any decent person who hasn't been too brainwashed understands that we are all people here and we all work together. But they segregate people, because how is a Democrat so different to a Republican actually at the end of the day? Not the people in charge, I'm talking about the actual people.
Now, to circle back to Chris Tucker, we need to be clear that he has not been accused of any wrongdoing. That being said, his proximity has made a lot of people uneasy, especially considering the time period when all of this was happening and what we now know about Epstein's activities. And now people are going back to what Katt Williams said about Chris not being the same person he was at the start of his career. Katt alleged the version of Chris who ended up flying on Epstein's plane represents something very different. Someone he believes got pulled so deep into Hollywood that he may have given up his soul.
The Chris Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker, not Smokey. Oh, Lord. If I didn't know no better, I'd tell you he's the greatest. I don't care what you say. To be confident and not delusional is a real skill. Most of these confident people we see is really delusional.
Well, you don't think they asked Chris Tucker to come back in the second Friday? Smokey was all in Smokey. There ain't no Friday without Smokey.
We all agree to that, and there's no next Friday without Friday, and there's no Friday after next without Friday.
Now, when it comes to fans, opinions are split on Chris Tucker. Some people think Chris may have seen things he didn't fully understand at the time and was too afraid to speak out. One fan said, honestly, him knowing about the island would explain his absence from the silver screen for so many years. Dude was disgusted with Hollywood and decided to keep quiet so he wouldn't get capped. Similar to how Topher Grace left That 70s Show because of Danny Masterson. However, others are not so generous, and they're questioning whether Chris just witnessed something disturbing or if he was more involved than he's willing to admit. Someone wrote, they're all involved, everyone. Once you reach a certain level of fame or power, you can't avoid it anymore. You either go along with it or you don't climb the ladder. Crossroads. But let's hear from you now. How do you feel about Katt Williams calling out Chris over his Epstein connection? Do you think Chris saw something he was too scared to speak on, or do you think he may have been directly involved? Leave your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for this next video.